What's going on? What's going on? We back at it again. As the coals keep turning and the fire still burning. Yes, welcome to the furnace. I'm your host, King Alba. For those that don't know, I should get better at introducing myself, but I just feel like we just here together so many times. So, really when I'm getting into it, the subject matter and different things, I just feel so much more important. And but yeah, here we go again, episode seven. So gonna give a clap to that. Hard work, hard energy, but that's what we all putting in, right? So you know, what a blessing it is, what a great opportunity it is to be doing what we do every day. So seeking that growth, seeking that change, seeking that higher mind, seeking elevation. So let's just continue that path that we're on. And while you at it, tell a friend. While you at it, like, subscribe, and share. Wherever you at. I don't know if you just tuned in or every once in a while you might get a quick tune. So this is for whoever just take the next step. Let's continue to take these steps, take these leaps. We can't get to where we're going if we don't go against the grain because, that's kind of where we at in this life now. We all caught up somewhere, wherever we are, from things we have attached to us that take away from what we all really are. And so we're going against the grain, we're going against ourselves, we're going against habits, we're going against mind frames, state of minds, things that have been years, things that were done, and things that were passed down. So, that's the challenge we face, and we have had a lot of beautiful topics. A lot of the episodes, have all been juicy. If you haven't seen any of the other episodes or took the chance to, please do. There's food in there for you. I promise you, there's something that you can take, that you can put into your belt as you move forward in your life. And not many things that I would promise, but I just know it to be true. So check that out. When you get a chance, go back, reference anything. You get a chance, go check out anything that you missed. Just catch up because this is a journey, and this is a journey. Each step matters. Here in the furnace, this ain't like your other episodes and all of that. If you get in and you feel like, hey, you feel what's going on and what we doing here, then go back and catch up too, as you can in your car, on your ride home, half here, half there. Hey, I know I can talk, but it's always gonna be real, and that is 100. I can tell you that. I can give myself to that as I give myself to this every time I stand right here. So, let's just keep it turning that heat up on change and transformation because there's a better you, there's a better me. We were created. We're a species, however you want to look at it, for so much more, and everything details that. And that's why episode 4 is one of my favorites right now, just because of what I think, how all this wraps around, but the core of like more and all that really means is just understanding ourselves and what it means to be this very intricate, complex, highly established being that we are, that we kind of undermine, diminish by our actions and the conformity that we have to the world and the way we move with it, or it has brought us to move with it. So, episode 4 is a big one for me. So definitely go check that out. We had a lot of big topics, a lot of big stories. We got into, we had the Cyrus Carmack Belton case, which was a terrible tragedy and just American injustice. Period. And we got into that. We also had the highly controversial Carmelo Anthony case. We got into that last episode, in episode 6. So, and we touched on different subjects as well. Just things that's going on. You know, the Boosie not allowing transgender, all that. We got into a bunch of different subjects, and we just address real subjects here. And if you want to catch up on any of those, go ahead. And as I say, and we'll always say, this is for us. Please leave a comment, leave your thoughts. I respect everyone. We're all here together. Our different views or religions, we have to find a way to come together, address how we think, how we feel, what we do. We have to begin to jump in the fire and purify these impurities to become more pure in our minds and in our thinking, into what we do and how we receive each other. And that this is the place that I would love to create, that we can begin to move forward as humanity, as well as identifying and validating more of what we feel and where we're at and what we believe. Where we don't get stagnant, we don't get content. Oh, I've been a Christian all these years, and we just stuck, and you just never really did the research, and you don't know why you're really just not moving forward as what that means. Or if you've been into whatever that you're into, and you're just stagnant because you just latched on to something, it's not really propelling you forward as a being. We're trying to strip away all these things, chains, things that weigh us down, that I believe any of us that have chosen to believe or establish a faith in anything have come to establish that because we really desire or have desired a higher calling and a higher being and a higher state of thinking. And so it's just unearthing what that really means and doing it together respectfully, and coming to understandings, and also looking at ourselves. Really, really, really looking at ourselves. Each of us are broken and jacked up, and that's one thing we got to come to grips with, is we throw all these things into the fire, that we are not okay in the way that we move and what we do, as well as we can look at the world that has raised us is not okay. And for us to begin to bring some okays into the scenario, we got to begin to start with ourselves and what does that really mean to be us. So we address all these different subjects and get into them right here in the furnace, So yes, here we go again. I lighten it up today. But for me, everything really has an ultimate core, ultimate goal of what I feel still things that we need to address or look at. And I always try to wrap everything back around. That's big for me. I don't ever want to mislead anyone, misdirect anyone. And I wish I was that history professor that could sit up here and go back to in 1815 and da-da-da. Now, sometimes I got to go reevaluate myself, even though I know things and have been blessed to know things. I recheck myself. So, if I ever do bring anything like that, that's because I went back, re-verified, or something that I want to make sure that I got it, I got the facts straight. So, I advise you to do the same, as you go. But I'm not gonna say I'm that guy, but I will give you the root of what I do know, to the best that I know it. And if it's something that I feel I need to really tattoo something on, I will go give you that reference or that date or anything that I feel really needs to be pinpointed. But with that, it's really just wrapping it back around to the core of what all of this means. And I really truly appreciate anyone that stops by here. This means so much. So not only are you welcome, I'm sure your soul and your mind and your heart really appreciate it. It's just peeking through all of that mess, saying maybe there's a chance. And I believe there's more than a chance, as long as we keep pushing and as long as we truly, truly desire that more than we're desiring these other things that are diminishing us as people and our characters and our being, right? So we're not going to be perfect, but we got to begin to start establishing some real things. But I definitely lighten it up Oh, you know what? Let me give a quick shout out. So as y'all can see, I got this Juneteenth shirt on. I know it's the 13th, but Elgin, Texas, does their own Juneteenth. They do it because there's a bigger one in Austin, obviously, and excuse me, they do one. My daughter was in there with her dance team. I hope I got this right. The Lady Royals. I wanted to say Baby Royals, but that just don't sound right. So I'm hoping I got that right. But yeah, so she was in it. It was amazing um, to be there. They had a nice little event, nice little setup. You know, celebrating something like I said, I believe should be celebrated all week. Should be brought up. It should be in the newses. It should be, you know what I mean, the way they want to do everything else and make special lunch specials and all that. But you know, we got to do that. People that know and are growing and here, whether you own a business, you know, we got to start honoring these things. Like I said, if we're gonna go to a higher calling and a higher thinking, a lot of these things are big moments uh, for not just people of color, but I just believe humanity that we just try to pretend to acknowledge and not really giving it the value that it should have. But it was amazing. So thanks to the staff and everyone that put that together in Elgin. Um, like I said, that was a really cool. If you're ever here or if you live here or around here, Elgin does one on the 13th. Your kids will love it. You will love it. Like I said, it was really nice. So, but moving forward, you gotta keep it rolling. Gotta keep the coals turning. Keep the gears turning. Keep it working. We've touched so many subjects, a lot of emotional subjects, and all these different things. We tend to, uh, you know, have to continue to dig and just look at from every aspect. And you know, I think things we all thought about, things we all get into, um, have gotten into, maybe experienced. You know, all these different type of things, um, these different elements to life. I guess I would say. So kicking off episode 7. First question that I will ask, and like I said, like, subscribe, and share if you haven't. But kicking it off, what do you think about aliens? What do you think about aliens? How do you feel about it? Leave a thought. You know, leave a thought. Like I said, if you however you feel, everything's welcome here. I think we deserve. I mean, because these things are real. They're part of our lives, in some sense, or have been just because of movies and stories and all these things. Right? They're a part of our lives. I think they kind of get overshadowed now because we got all this media and we can see all this different type of things just right there, and then well, you know, and just move past, just like, you know, everything, just like these major cases that we just looked at. We just can move past stuff so easy nowadays, and sometimes forget how intricate, like, these things might seem a moment in time, but how intricate these things are. Right? It's like a leg, and you know, you ever see, you get older, you know, those broken blood vessels, and you know, we're starting to look pretty bad having these things that we don't address. Um, that's what makes us weak. And so I just like digging back, and like I said it before, like I said, take your time and write your comment on how you feel or whatever. I want to hear it. I want to go back and see. I want to, like I said, anyone to be able to do that, because different point of views, different, you know, we need that to engage as we look at ourselves and look at our own thinking and being able to address, and without all the pieces or all the different thoughts or ways to think, you know, we just don't, we don't have it all to do what we need to do. That's why scientists and you know, anyone that does any type of work like that is continuously, looking and going, and until any real sources, they're kind of just sitting on theories, but we want to get as close as possible to where we need to be, right? So that's why we keep, this is an ongoing process. And we up in there stirring them coals, throwing in that wood, throwing in all these things that we got. This this gold that needs to be purified and reformed and shaped to its pure state, brought back to its glory. You know, that's why we do this. So, but with me myself, I've said it before. I'm into, I'm not like, I'm a believer, but I'm into all, like, I've been into all of this. And I never really questioned God. I never had that fight with God. I know a lot of people have in the question. And to be 100% honest, I've just never really had that challenge. I always was more of like, how do these things fit in with that, right? So, but I've always been so fascinated. I was the kid that could just stare at the stars and just wonder and let my mind wonder about all these things. I was actually that kid that would just look at things and just was so curious, because I'm a process person. I'm a process person, and I like to just understand how things work. Like people in minds, like I just like to just try to understand, and I've been like that since a kid. So all these things, mythology, uh, prophecies, um, all these just different things, the terracotta man and just the tombs, and the mercury that was, what I mean, that was used in the tombs, that was supposed to be, an ancient form of something that allowed from the interdimensions and crossovers, um, all these different things. Like I just really, really love understanding these things, aliens, and trying to understand life on the other planets and what it was. So for me, I just think it's I do believe, and as a Christian, do believe life on other planets. Okay, I do believe life on other planets. I, I do believe that, yes, we're not alone here. But that's the amazing part for me too, because I think sometimes for me being a believer, and whatever you believe, like, please leave comments. I just got to say, sometimes I'm lacking in hearing other people's voices. I would love to really hear. I know this is kind of more of a fun subject, so it ain't even have to be long. You can put what you believe. You can reference a book. You can reference something. You know. But I don't believe that we're in this alone and looking at everything. It just doesn't make sense for us to be alone. Um, I even believe the Bible makes that clear. Uh, but I also think that's what makes us so special. It says that we were created in His image. He took not only a special interest in us, but everything about from our beginning to Him forming, to Him breathing life. God um was special. We were special, and to declare that He created us and man and in His image was declaring something different than all else that was created. Not that they're less. I'm not gonna say they're less in value or less loved by their Creator, God, um, but you know, there was something different that He was establishing with us when we were created. So to me, I don't not believe it. I just feel like it makes us much more special, right? And I know, we look at it different. Like, what's so special about us? They're flying around, and we could just go into it, and because that's like I said, we're about materials and things, and then so we can instantly go to these views of like, well, what would make us more special than them? You know what I mean? They're probably 10 times more highly advanced, which could be true. But, I think it's like a parent loving their kid. And, for another parent or another person or another child who sees this child doted on and loved and for whatever reason, it's like that kid is terrible. They suck at everything they do. They're like, what is really so special about John, right? Or Joe or whoever, right? So they're like, but that parent sees everything that's special. And to that parent, not only is it highlighted, it's like magnified. And the parent just wants that child to be all that they can be because of what they see. So versus what the world sees and what the world thinks, it's the parent that sees and in it the value, but then it becomes invaluable. Like there's no price that could, like, they're everything, right? So where you could put a price, where you could say that life ain't worth it, or that person wouldn't be worth it, the eye of the beholder, and the love is key, y'all. I always tell y'all that love sees so much more. So that's what I feel makes us special. But as aliens, yes, I do feel there is aliens. Man, I guess the next big thing, the next question is, I think we all try to really get there, right? What are they? What are they? You know what? Before I get too far, I'm gonna read a couple a couple things in the Bible that, you know, don't completely clarify, but I just think that are interesting to think about as well. So the prophet Ezekiel, the prophet describes a windstorm. So this is Ezekiel 1, but in it he describes a windstorm from the north featuring glowing, multi-faced beings and intricate wheels move in all directions. And then, of course, it says some modern theorists and engineers have interpreted this description as depicting of a landing gear and rotors on a spacecraft or helicopter. Another one is in Second Kings chapter 2 verse 11. The prophet Elijah is taken up into heaven in a chariot of fire and horses of fire. And imagine, and you remember this is old times, so they're describing things in terms and in views in which they understand, right? Like you might see something, but from our knowledge, we describe things from what we've, obviously the vast knowledge that we know. From them, from chariots, horses, fire, from lights, they didn't have the same perspective. So there, a lot of these descriptions, a lot of people get caught up in older biblical times of understanding things because they sound so far-fetched. But also, you have to understand that all these descriptions, which could be very literal, but also are going off of from what they know is literal, from what they know in that time. So it says that he's taken up in a chariot of fire and horses of fire, separated by a whirlwind, while widely understood as a divine, miraculous transportation. Some interpretations point to this as an encounter with an otherworldly flying vehicle. So yeah, and that's biblical. So, I think, sometimes we can kind of feel so separated in our views and what we think, and just just in general, right? This is whatever we all, like I said, whatever you are, if it's the universe or the ancestors or both, or I know they all, cause they feel like they're all really close, but like the energy, some people into the energy and really into these different things, and the spiritual side of just the spirits and all these different things. So I just feel like and a lot of people that can see that, right? A lot of we can kind of come to that conclusion, and I know for sometimes there's a lot of Christians who won't really touch things like that. Like I said, I'm just not your norm. I'm not saying there isn't anybody like me either, and there's plenty of people who've done this research that are also believers. Very interestingly, like scientists and real researchers who are believers, but who also look at all this different stuff. That's why you gotta open your palettes, look around, and there's different perspectives. And if you're gonna listen to this scientist, there's another scientist from another perspective researching that same thing. And as you're coming to grips with it, what we're doing is then pulling out the core by using our logic, right? So that we can begin to put down things we don't need versus picking, and taking up what we do need so that we can elevate, that we can mature mentally and spiritually, and hopefully really get to doing a whole lot better physically. Yeah, I need to do some jogging. You know what I'm saying? I need to get back to work. Time is not a friend, but uh, yeah. So I think the next one is what are they? What are they? So leave a thought on that. Um, for me, man, I don't know the best way for me to put this, but like for me, when I look at um, us from my point of view, that's why I need yours. Um, but as a creation, as a species, seeing the higher power that has established, created, expanded the heavens, placed, hung each star in the sky, that the Big Bang was no more than a process that was established through creation and being spoken into existence, all in preparation for you and me. But with that, you know, I believe that there was other worlds that were created, and before I dig into too much into that, I do want to read something for you. If I can find it. Okay, so this is in Job. First Job. I don't see the chapter right now, but let's just read it. So in Job, it says, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Where have you come from? And then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth." And then he says, he says to and fro, and then walking up and down. So he's been coming and going and moving and going all throughout the earth. So he's just up and down and going. And, I'm just come on, work with me, and just hear what I'm saying. So he's basically telling God what he's done. But here he comes to a meeting with the sons of God. Now, it doesn't establish that these are all angels, right? They're just part of his creation, right? As we are also sons of God, adopted in that essence, So and this is from my perspective. I'm not trying to bring down anyone. Just work with me as I'm just explaining from this context, from this view, right? I'm just trying to say that even scripture brings up a lot of things that need to be understood as well. So as this meeting is held, there's other beings there. So that's how I want to put it, right? It says the sons. It doesn't allow. It just says, hey, there was. So if there's this meeting, and it's almost as if, this is after the fall of man. So this is after Adam as if Adam is no longer the prince anymore, right? He's fallen, right? So Satan almost comes as, which is known as the prince of the earth, the prince of darkness. You know, he has a light reign for a moment until his time is up, right? So he almost like as if he came to represent earth in that aspect. But God has to ask him, like, and you got something. I know that brings up more. Why didn't God just destroy him then? Why the da 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 da? Hey, that's an omnipresence who knows the beginning and the end, and for him, they're one. So he knows way more than I know, that I could just completely elaborate that now to give you that answer. But I just want to be able to bring it to our subject about aliens. And so for me, I believe a lot of these alien encounters and these things that are happening for me um, are fallen angels. And I think too, you have to understand um, what angels really look like, right? They're not these. No offense, the, these little baby angels and these angels that look like people, you know. And the word angel, if no one knows, the word angel actually means messenger. So they're not, they're messengers of God. They're helping God carry out his will um, as part of their creation and their duty. Uh, but they look nothing like these depictions that we understand them as, right? And we also know that Lucifer, which means morning star, because obviously he wasn't created to be dark. So the name Lucifer means morning star, because nothing God creates is dark. Just to understand that as well. But don't look like all these things that we thought they look like. And if we actually, if you look into scripture or you look more into it, the descriptions that you would hear are very alienish, right, to our world and to our mind. And very big, strong beings. I mean, really just wrapping your mind around. I can't even, I think one had so many, like the wings and it was the eye. I mean, it's just, they're a whole nother, and I'm sure Marvel, right? But for us, we'd be, honestly, we would be terrified. Uh, but these fallen angels have a job of misleading us. And I think that a lot of these things are ways to detour us and detour our minds. And the work goes from the manipulation of, from the ground level, from manipulation of just our minds and getting us to ponder, wonder, and grab onto things that, or mingle things that shouldn't be mingled. Um, so I do believe a lot of these encounters and things like that are fallen angels. And reason why I want to say, because we also forget how powerful these angels are. You know, these angels were able to take forms, look like men, look like you and me. Scripture even says, be careful how you treat people because you never know when you entertain an angel. Like, so these beings are not, they're no chumps by any means. And they were even able to take forms of animals. And I want to drop a little seed in the bucket right here, so we even can get to the part of the Nephilim and the giants. I believe in giants. I believe because I believe in scripture, and we have proof that there's been giants. But we also believe giants just came from angels somehow sleeping with human beings, and no, that's not really the case. These angels. So picture your aliens abducting people, manipulating their bodies, manipulating them, people feeling like they're being probed and tested on, right? There was manipulation in this time. So angels don't procreate, and we know that because of scripture as well. The angels don't procreate, so there's no way that that could have actually happened. But what happened was gene manipulation, because, like I said, they are highly powerful beings. So I believe that that same type of thing is still going on to this day, but they just took it a notch further by misleading us to believe what it is doing so. As well as they have people on the ground level that they've misled or control or whatever, pushing these agendas for gene manipulation. You can now have a baby and choose what eye color you want, what skin tone. Like, almost like now you can just manufacture things because of all these things going on. We know the stuff that's happened with the sheep and the pigs, with human, and these pigs the pigs, they said, were acting weird, almost like they were wondering why they were there, because they bred them with, like, I don't know, they mixed the DNA with human DNA, and these pigs were off, almost like their consciousness didn't fit to their being. I'm just going about it the way I understand it. So I'm just saying these type of things have been going on, are still going on ground level, but I believe even on the upper level, these beings, these fallen angels, are still manipulating mankind and are still manipulating, and that's because their whole theme is not just misleading God's creation, but destroying God's creation and manipulating in any way, fracturing God's creation. So I don't believe that it's to make us better in any form of sense, because even if we were better and forgot who God was, and this is from my perspective, even now, even without, let's take God out the picture, even if they were making us superhumans, we would just be more ignorant. You see what I'm saying? So even if we were just super humans, we would just be more ignorant. So I don't believe any of it is for any good. So, and then I feel like the further away we get from that core truth, for me, that aligns the core of what we are, we're just always going to be worse. Or if we mislead and no longer think about the core and lean more towards this, then we're already walking away from the path. And you know what I'm saying? So that's just me. I'm just trying to break it down in how I see it. But I do believe, for the most part, it's fallen angels. And I do know that I said there was more beings. But from understanding that we're the only ones, besides the fallen angels, that have fallen. None of the other creation had fallen. Could they be interested? Because they're interested in this whole story. They're interested too. How's this thing? I'm sure that these other beings are very curious to what's this thing playing out and what God went down. And this is from my perspective. Our Creator, our God, what we know went down and died for. What is to this? What is this? We can see the love and the mercy. They can see everything that was opposite from what was being told to them, and the lie that was being spread. Like, it's declaring the opposite. But I'm sure it's still, you're like, but are they worth it? But so I believe, yeah. So if there was, but I don't think that they would be touching us as people, right? Like, maybe curiosity, but I'm sure they have bounds and limits to their interference, as they're not part of that, right? And I don't believe that they would interfere in that way as well, only because they wouldn't do anything outside of what was right, and anything that would mislead us or make us think about something else wouldn't be their objective, because they're not out of sync with their Creator or higher power. And so I believe that the ones who are out of sync are the ones that are doing all these things, manipulating us. Like I said, they can take different forms. We read that there's different It sounds like vehicles or things that we wouldn't understand. But I don't know what heaven is and everything that has to be there. I know these beings can move faster than we could ever imagine, right? Like we haven't even developed vehicles and stuff to move the way these angels and these higher beings can move, let alone if they take breaks and ride something else. I don't know. But I can see it. I can see it being or making us think that we see it. Because the weaker we are as vessels and people. You know, I mean, this is just science too, right? Like, or like if somebody's already afraid of something, they're more likely to think that they saw that thing. So if we become more as people weary and weakened in all these areas, the more susceptible we are to be to the thought of it as well as the real thing of it, right? Because I do believe, and this is why we're reclaiming us. You know what I'm saying? This is why I'm getting back to reclaiming our hearts, our minds, what we are, what it means, because to begin to strengthen our walls again as people, our minds begin to strengthen ourselves again, to have defense against these things that we clearly don't understand. There has to, if there's a spiritual world, and we know there has to be this other realm, and we know that there's more to the space. There's just so many things that we don't understand, can't understand. I don't care how many scientists, I don't care how many theories they will be going and they will be searching and they will be looking and they will be trying to figure. And as soon as they even think that they kind of got it, they're going to hit the button too soon and they're going to, that we will destroy ourselves or do something really, really regretful. But this stuff is just so beyond us. But we can understand enough to understand it as well as why it's important to re-strengthen what we are, right? Because you are amazing, you are marvelous, you are more, and I don't care what other things are out there. You are more and you are stronger than you can imagine. But until you understand a lot of these things, we will all of us will be in a weakened state. And that's why this was a fun topic. This was why, because I do believe like it's so like, and this you won't really hear this from churches, you won't really hear this from your pastors, and you won't hear that this is just not something. This is just, I don't know, something, a journey I've been blessed to walk through and see it through different ways, as well as understand where we come from with it, right? So that's just a blessing I'm grateful for, because I can talk to anyone about it and be a believer, but not also be this person condemning it, because really I see it and I can see it, but I also can see it wrapped around back to starting back at the beginning. But that's for me. But either way, at the end of the day, these things are something we deal with, things that are prevalent, things that now even our government has come to address, and I think they call them UAPs now. They got away from saying UFOs. But yeah, for me, I believe they're fallen angels. Next question. Their purpose of coming to Earth. So I don't know what you believe. Leave your thoughts. What would you believe that these extra highly, and I'm gonna say it like this because I just need us to like feel it, right? What would these extraterrestrial, highly intelligent beings want with us if we're so many million years, or however, I'm just trying to give a view, like in technology or mind so much further back than them, then what would be their purpose here, and why would they be so interested in us? Why would they be abducting and wanting to know how your skin works if their skin is 1,000 times better, right? And there's a lot of theories. Because of our movies and because of all this stuff, we can come up with so much stuff. They want our minerals. They want this. They want that. They could be coming from a dying planet and they're trying to come here, but they need to do tests and do things to themselves before they can accommodate to, believe me, I can go there too. I could probably write my own book at this point. We all can. we done seen so many stories and theories, but I want to know what's your thought on that. I've already given, I believe, my purpose of them coming is, I believe, they're fallen angels, and the purpose of distraction and the purpose of manipulation and destroying what God has created, because that's what the war is against. And we just so happen to be caught in the middle of this thing. And, if the enemy can attack God, or, you know, they just say the boss, right? Maybe that's better. If you can't get to the boss, then you try to get to the family, right? You try to get to the mother, and you go to the people you can get to. And I think that's what we are. We're caught in the middle, and we're the people that the enemy can get to. And this is just all part of that work. So, but tell me what you think. Give your views. Man, I would really love to hear, because sometimes, you could think you heard it all, and you're like, man, I never thought about that part. Um, but the crazy part is your government believes it. Your government has seen things. These air pilots have seen things. Stuff has been even in ancient times on walls and all these different things. So, you know, it's a very real thing, and I think to undermine it and also keep it in the sci-fi world, like a fiction, like, no, because sometimes we're losing a real, like, there's a meaning to this, and if we're here and we're trying to become and be, then what are these other things that are interfering from this part, and what would be their meaning of interfering, and what does that say for us on a day-to-day basis, right? Because I think some of it's just more real than we think, and but I do think we're that special, that coveted, that whatever it is for you, I do believe either way that they're not here for peace, right? No matter how peaceful. I think I said this before. Like, every blessing is not a blessing, but we tend to, because that's how we're taught, through gratification. And then so if you're really, really hungry, and somebody gives you some food, and you feel instantly just blessed, and you're grateful, and to eat this food, and you receive this food with all appreciation, and you don't know that there's like this mad scientist who gave you this food, and he just put this little something in there that through time will slowly deteriorate you, and just wants to see you and use you as an experiment. But for you, and in that moment, it was a blessing. And I feel like with all these things, from our government, from our food supply, all this stuff that we've been used and manipulated and corrupted, because the creation is under attack, right? We can see how we don't even care about trees. We don't care about anything. We don't care about animals. We'll manufacture. We'll do whatever we steroids, and to make the animals grow faster, all for capitalization, all for greed and money. And so we just see there's no bounds, but in it, one task, right? However you want to look at it, however it's being manipulated or formed, there's one task, and it's just an attack on humanity and creation and life. An attack on man, people being under this realm, who have now kind of succumbing us. And that's why I'm trying to, like I said, elevate, so we can, break up out of this stuff. But, caught in this realm, are on a one path destruction towards life and creation. Or, I don't know if you want to call it evolution, or, there has to be a real beginning for me. But if you're with evolution, there's still an attack on life, because even everything started off with somehow being given life, whether it was a molecule or whatever. And we're here today just only to see an attack on that. You know what I'm saying? So, like, that's what I'm trying to really just get to with that. So that's my purpose that I see, and I would like to know your thoughts. Government cover-ups. I think we've all seen things, we all heard things, we all know about Area 51, all these different things. So we know there's government cover-ups. We know there's a lot of things we just don't know that they won't tell us, and we just really don't, right? Because we get so focused up there, we forget that they were doing things like with Stargate, and searching for portals and all of that. But in the Bible, you have Jacob. He falls asleep and he sees God gives him a vision, and in the vision he sees a ladder, and in the ladder he sees angels descending, ascending, and descending, and it's like a form of a portal. So now, like because of and Christ being that ladder that was given, because before it was less active, but when that bridge was brought, that these there's pathways right in the spiritual world, right? So there's just another way to kind of look at that, even through biblical, like that there's a that so here that they're into all this stuff. So the way I'm talking to you, you might say, "Oh, you conspiracy theories, this is that," but everything I'm telling you, they're into. And all these people we call whistleblowers, like everything they talked about, your government's into. They just somehow like make you think that that's it's like the person that doesn't, that person that didn't want to let you know they still play with toys, so they downed everybody else that played with toys, and then you went to their house and found out they had every wrestling figure and all of that. Like it's like the same situation. Like they make you look crazy for all of this, but they're like super 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 into it. I mean their own projects. And then they said they kill projects only to secretly, because they wanted to continue to be a secret. So they were like they killed it, and then they create another branch for it. They'll call it something else, but they're still doing the exact same tests. I'm talking about from your hypnosis, your people that have more of a connection, I guess, with the spiritual world. They could do things like they're testing all these things, your brain waves. I'm saying you're a project. So when we walk around here and wherever we're from, whatever communities we're from, but they actually have learned about wavelengths and all that. So like how we react to different wavelengths, and how they could turn little dials to see how it would change people's moods and different things. Man, they're into so much stuff. Don't let them fool you. This is an attack on you, your body, your mind. And with that, the only reason why I say that, because then you have to go into aliens and them having, the alien crashes, them giving technology. So when we go back into the government cover-ups, this is still all in the same scope. I'm just trying to give it to you, because I think the more, it's like a scientist, right? Like if he gets more curious, and let's say he does get something from somewhere else, or this, you know what I mean? Like it's going to make him more and more curious. So you just start going kind of test rampant. It's a mad scientist, and that's what all these people are like. But in in the end, it's just that attack. They can't ever forget that it's an attack. So don't eat every ice cream they give you. What is aliens being real for us? Mean for us. Leave your thoughts. Leave your thoughts. Also, like, subscribe, share if you haven't. But for real, let's. What does that mean for us? What does it mean for us? And that's the thing. Like I just think that we look at it, and sometimes we look at it in ways they want us to look at it. Like what does that really mean for us? And then should we be terrified? And if we are to be terrified, who do we trust? Our government? Like it's just such a weird thing to really think about. Like if and I just don't, like I said, it's just a interesting thing. But I do believe in aliens. What it means for us is, I think, just really to understand uh, that there is other. I do believe in other beings out there, but I believe what we deal with here, and even the different aliens, and the grays and all that, I just believe that there are different forms that these fallen angels are taking, just to continue to mislead us, have us put more faith in other things, and as well as faith, whether it's the good faith or whether it's fear and belief, um, to keep us from what we're doing here in the furnace. And it's really just tapping in to what we're really meant to be. And I think that's the biggest fear, is us connecting the way we need to connect to the core and to the source, and just really, really transforming and becoming, um, what we actually are, becoming way more in tune, and ultimately with each other, right? So like this is like a, you know what I'm saying? It's like a power source, and we just all connecting and channeling greatness, so to speak, because we're reaching those levels and unearthing those abilities. You know, I do believe those abilities, that are being taken from us. You know, and believe it or not, virtues are an ability. Patience is an ability. So, you learn. You have to learn these things. Um, and so, yeah, you know, I feel like those are abilities that are taken from us because they don't allow us to tap in to the other parts of us to take great strength and a great energy. And sometimes we want everything to be superhero like. And I know I be going on, y'all. I'm sorry, but you know they want everything to be superhero, and they got us thinking that way. That our abilities have to be these grand powers, picking up stuff and doing all this, and then if we did have powers like that, then we would want to see who's the best at it. You know what I'm saying? But I think our grand abilities sometimes are just being able for us to manipulate even the energies around us because we're so in tune with the energies inside us. Mm, think about that. Think about that. Um, yeah, so leave your thoughts on that. Next one is another big one. Another one. I'm sure we all had uncles and aunts and all that to tell stories. Old stories, history. You go back, it's there. It's something that's very touchy. It's something that makes you think when you turn the light off. It's stuff that's in movies. It's um it's that something passing through the corner of your eye that makes you think of this other element that we call ghost and spirits. So, what do you think about ghost and spirits? Leave your thought. Uh, I do believe in ghosts and spirits, um, or spirits, whatever which you rather call them. But trying to think of the way to say this. The reason why I don't believe that it's just like I don't believe it in the same sense because I know in scripture for me as a believer when you die you rest and you will rest until the coming of Christ when scripture in Revelation says that the dead rise first. So the dead rise first means that they have to be sleep. They have to be down, right, to rise first. And they will be transfigured in the sky, meaning they will be put back together, made whole to then, go meet their creator and, go through their process of judgment and where they fall. Um, but I do believe that we rest, right? Um, and so that's where I kind of sit with that. But as far as believing them, I definitely do. Um, I definitely do. With that, I had some too. I just want to, like I said, I just like to show how all this stuff kind of connects. Um, so the king saw, so even though scripture says that we rest, um, King Saul, let me see, okay. So he's kind of in distress. He's been, he hasn't done right, and I'm just gonna sum some of this up for you. And so with that, God has abandoned him, right? So he's the king that the people chose, but he started doing wrong, and in this instance, he can't get a hold of God. God is He is now like an enemy of God, right? And he's so worried because now he's being surrounded by the Philistines and he doesn't have his protection. Just to sum it up, God said when they took the promised land that they would always be good, that their enemies would fear them, that their enemies would be certain, basically kind of service to them, because God will continuously to bless the land. The land will be healthy. The land will bear its fruit, the milk and honey, everything, as long as they just did right. So I'm just trying to bring in context to, like, all right, here it is. He's not doing right, and he's kind of cut off. But because he's cut off, it says, then Saul said to one of his servants, he said, seek me a woman that had the familiar spirit. So back then, like, a familiar spirit is someone that, kind of taps into the spirits that messes with that world. So here it is. And that's why I said a lot of people, we don't even understand about scripture. Scripture actually talks about a lot of these things. So I'm just want to say that, like, even for Christians and all that, like, we kind of shy away from these things and don't get real with these things, but have to understand these things, because I don't even believe that, even as we look into our ancestors and all, they were into the energies, the earth, the healing, and all that stuff. So I think that we can get away from that. But I don't think we were always meant for that, if that makes sense. It's like, like I said, I'll get to that. But so either way, he asked to inquire of a woman of familiar spirit, that he may go to her and he may inquire of her, that he may talk to her. And the servant said to him that he knew a woman that had a familiar spirit. And so he disguises himself. He goes to the woman, and the woman came by night, and he said that I prayed that the divine unto me by your familiar spirit to bring me up whom I shall name unto thee. And then so he tells her who to bring up. And so here it is. He goes to this woman who dabbles into spirits, right? And they're calling up. She's calling up the spirit that he wants to speak with. And the woman said unto him, behold, thou knowest what Saul have done, how he have cut off those that have the familiar spirits. And he's like, yeah. So she doesn't know he saw yet, but he's like, yeah. And the wizards, and she even says, and the wizards out of the land. So wizards, it talks about wizards, wherefore then thou layest a snare for my life, because I might die. So she's like, hey, I can't be doing this work because, the king said, if, that I could die. So now you coming to me, and she doesn't know it's him yet. And, and he swears to her that she will live and blah, blah, blah. And anyways, then he said to the woman to bring up Samuel. And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice. And the woman spake to Saul, saying, why have you deceived me? For thou art Saul. Because she knew at the time that Samuel came that he was Saul. Because I don't know if the Spirit told him. And then the king said unto her, be not afraid, for what sawest you? And the woman said unto Saul, I saw gods ascending out of the earth. And he said unto her, what form is he of? And she said, an old man cometh. And so she explains to him how he is as he comes. But so I'm just trying to get to the point. So even in here, they talk about spirits and this Samuel being conjured up by Saul by this woman. And so yeah, I definitely believe in spirits, but I believe they also get used against us to manipulate us. Samuel actually gets on Saul for doing so. Like, better than this. Basically, he tells him. If you want to read more, you can go back. You can look at that. But I'm just trying to bring it into context. So even for me as a believer, yeah, like, I definitely not only believe in it, but I also understand that these things are wrong, because Scripture also says that we're supposed to rest. So, I don't think we have a choice in that rest unless there's things that are calling us up or allowing us to be. And a lot of times it's funny because they say these spirits have unfinished business. And maybe they don't have unfinished business at all. Maybe it's all these witches and people and all these things that are doing things in the corruption of the land that could be splitting these veils and allowing for this state of unrest. So maybe it's not unfinished business, it's unrest. And it's funny that I even say that, because actually there's a part in here where where Samuel tells Saul, "Why have you disquitted me?" And I went to look up the word disquitted, and it basically means, um, why do you worry me? Why have you unrested me? Like, why have you? It's almost like an anxiety. Like, why have you brought me to this? You know, why have you uncomforted me and brought me to this unrest? I was where I was supposed to be, and you did this thing which you weren't supposed to do, going through this median or this, this person of a familiar spirit, and did what you weren't supposed to do, disrupting what God established, right? So for me, these type of things are disrupting what God has established. But when we go to a bigger friend, that's why I said sometimes it's just I want to go into this Illuminati thing, but I'm just trying to hold off a little bit. But we have to really understand that there's so much other works going on, and though we don't hear about witches or witchcraft and all these different things, we're actually kind of going through it each and every day, I feel. Um, but that's another subject. But I feel that just every day, just even through manipulation, just through now they can use it digitally and sub-planning these different things. If you believe in power and symbols, what happens after you see something that puts the symbol now in your subconscious, right? What access does that allow? I'm just saying, it's just, I don't know, I can get a little deep. But so, yeah, but with that, I do believe in spirits. What is the purpose of ghosts? What is the purpose of a spirit? Um, I don't really understand, and I don't really completely believe in, like I said, just unfinished business. I mean, 'cause if that's the case, almost everybody that passes over just about to have one. We're gonna have this whole world should be full of people of unfinished business. You know what I mean? Like, I just truly believe that. Like, if that's the case, um, because nobody's ready to go. We weren't meant to die. Okay, and I'm gonna say that. Like, you fear death so much because honestly, I feel that you weren't meant to die. Your creator did not create you to die. So there's a spirit of fear of death. Because if you were created to die, we wouldn't have a problem with going through our natural, just regular, normal process. But even through all this time of living, we're made so special and so different that there's something about us that's different. And there's something about us also knows that death is not it. Death is not what I want. Death is not wasn't meant for me, right? And we can come to a place to accept it, in which I think we have to at this point, and Scripture makes it very clear for me that we have to, and just us seeing life in general, something obviously we have to, but we haven't. We're trying to live longer. We're trying to, and this is mainly the rich people though. This is mainly people above, not really trying to keep us alive, but they're actually trying to murder us. I feel, trying to keep this balance because of the control that they have. But I just feel. I mean, there's just really no links, to it, and so we're not really meant to die. So I really wouldn't understand the purpose of just it being spirits and a ghost. Now I seen things like I'm telling you from, and that's why I said don't think I'm just talking here. Like I've had my own experiences, but I also believe that those experiences weren't just like ghosts or just people. I think that they're manipulations through things, and I believe there's darker forces at work, and those darker forces can appear to us whatever they need to be, and they can be nice, they can be kids. They know history better than you. They know who lived in the house, died in the house. They know everything. They know what's going to get to your heart. They know if you see your grandmother. They know it's all about destroying and misleading. And every opportunity that they have to do that, they will do. Every blessing is not a blessing. And so you might have seen your grandmother told you don't get in the car, you didn't get in the car, and something happened. And I believe there is actual angels too that might take the form of somebody that you're familiar with to talk to you. So I believe this spiritual world we just don't understand. But I don't believe in just like, oh, there's just a bunch of ghosts walking around. But I do believe that these people, these mediums, these people I'm going to be 100% honest, even with all their studying, I don't think they really understand what they're always doing. Even with all them doing it every day and it being passed down through generations. And I think that's why we're not really supposed to do it and we shouldn't be playing with it. And you're talking about the person who's doing it that's a medium, right? Is just broken, just like me and you. in every form and fashion. Maybe they can tap in differently to this spiritual side, but far as their thinking, their rage, them getting on the road and being upset, the way they probably treat people. 'Cause we all have issues, right? We all have some. Now imagine they have these issues too, but they also can do this. So it's like, ew, you don't. There's no way that anybody's fit for messing with these things, and that's why I believe we're not supposed to mess with these things, because if you open a door, you're not even the one who closes the door. And if you do open the door and you're tapping in, who knows what other spirit you're tapping into? And I don't mean a ghost. I mean like what other being or thing that are you connecting with to do the job that you're doing and opening doors that you don't even yourself have powers to shut. But yes, I do believe that these things can happen because of these darker forces, these darker spirits, these fallen angels, these things that are able to move and control and manipulate in realms that we don't understand. But I also, with that, with scripture, you can see that yes, can someone be conjured up? Can someone be pulled up? Um, yes. So that we do we can just see that in general. But what is your thoughts? How do you like really feel? What would be the purpose of a ghost or your ancestor roaming? And I know sometimes we look at it different and we're being protected. But if you ask me personally, and I would you want that to be your next existence? You know, um, just roaming around and you know what I mean, like trying to talk to people that can't see you, and then protecting the people that you love, but you can't completely protect them. So you're just there trying to protect them for the most part, right? And that's your whole like that's the rest of your like that's the way you're gonna go until what? And that's another thing for me. I feel like that that's a challenge on a lot of different levels. But yeah. And then another thing that I have, which was a question towards this, is why are most people's ghost experiences bad? I mean, I know bad gets highlighted anyway. We see that every day. For some reason, bad is highlighted all the time. But why are most experiences are bad? People end up with marks, scratches. Um, you know what I mean? We've heard of whole hauntings, things being moved. We've and there's proof there is things that going. Like I said, I just believe there's other forces at work that we just also don't know, and not just this angry person who didn't get to rest. Um, I mean, we can barely do things now, and all of a sudden we're super powerful when we die. Just work with me, please. Just work with me, work with me, work with me. You just gotta understand. I don't think we come back more elevated than we somehow are now, if that was the case. But, uh, yeah, because I know my experiences that I did have were bad. They weren't positive. I didn't feel like love. Um, I did have an experience when my grandmother, my Walita Maria, who when she was passing, and she was in the hospital, and I remember having a dream about her, and her telling me to come see her. And then when we went to go see her, I remember her saying something like she saw me, and I don't know what all that's about. And I don't know, and I don't understand it. I know she was a very special woman, and I do know I had a very special connection with her. For some reason, I can't really explain it. She spoke only Spanish. I never really could understand or communicate with her. I know she had an affinity towards me, for whatever reason. She loved my curly hair. We were the first mixed kids at that time, and so I don't know. I just had a weird. So I've had that experience. I've had doors shut on me and being locked in a room. These doors shut and I couldn't get them open on either side, and I had family on both sides. I mean, like women, like older for not like your cousins playing, right? And doing their thing on this side, and the women cooking. It was two doors in and out, and the doors shut on me, and I couldn't get out. And I'm yelling, and finally hitting the door, and I finally open it, and it just opens up, and then when I walk out, everybody just like still doing whatever they're doing, as if they, I mean, women right by the door, everything, like as if it was cool. So I just walked out cool. You know, I also seen things, darker things that used to torment me when I was a kid. But I believe too that happens because of certain people's spiritual connection. Okay, I do want to say that, like I said, we're all very special. We all got to get in tune, and we all, um, are more. And that's why I'm saying there's so much more to this. But I do say like some people are medians, or some people have the other elements to do these other things. I'm not saying I think we all probably can do things we shouldn't be doing, but I just believe we are also more because we were created in the image of God. We were created with creation to be the dominant species, but also in one spirit that moves through the breath of life itself, that moves through it all. And just being a child of the Most High, right? Or you could say higher power or star child, however you guys want to look at it. It's cool. I'm just trying to put it that I do believe there's other beings, and I believe we see that with Buddhism and other people and other things talking about, you know, sorry, sometimes I don't mean to look away. I'll be like trying to visualize what I'm saying, but levitating and things like that. And so, I mean, do I think this impossible? No. Now, why would I think that? Like, why would I think that we would just made this weak? No, I really truly believe we're more, but I believe that even none of those powers or anything that we think we could have would be more than learning the basic things of truly loving and really identifying, because I believe those things are the core pieces of us, and those things are what move through every living thing, and what we need, and the patience and the control. All these things allow for the real things like healing to happen. So lifting up a tree or doing something crazy to me just wouldn't matter. It would be kind of irrelevant to me, and wouldn't be as powerful to me as that someone that could care for somebody and make them believe in themselves and re-understand who they are and reassure and them that they matter and that they're loved. You know what I mean? I don't think that anybody's ability that was somehow just really magical would matter more than somebody that has mastered their inner core, to doing real things personally. But do I believe that yes, we're more than capable? Yes. But what does it mean? So I always talk about the core, right? So even if we could, what would it mean to do that? What would it mean to do that? Or to have that? Here's another fun one. Don't forget to leave your thoughts on that. Why are most ghost experiences bad? But that's just me. I just realized that, and I do know some people say they have had good experiences. I just know for the most part, any of us who know of experiences are usually eerie or bad, right? And just makes no sense to me. And yeah. So, and that's so I got to rip back into it, and that's why I just believe there's a darker force here, because Scripture also says that God didn't create the spirit of fear, right? So I just believe initially, yes, awareness and an ability of fear, like to an sense, as far as a sense would be to live and survive, like using your senses, but actually a spirit of fear that keeps you from being and overcoming is two different things, right? I feel, but that's how thin the line is, right? So I believe these things that bring us to any of these states lessen us as beings, right? A fear to succeed, a fear to do that, right? All these fears, and the fear of dark places, fear of just anything ghosts or extraterrestrials, or you know what I mean, anything that can continue to harness these fears or mislead in any way. I believe is part of just that attack alone on us just really growing or really understanding, right? I don't believe setting traps and capturing the ET and doing all the studies in the world would even help us at all, because we're messed up here, right? Like, so no matter, even if it was possible, we're doing all these things and all the technology, and we can see technology. The 21st century is and is the fastest growing century. So we know that technology has took a vast jump, and we could say it's because of these, government cover-ups of captured beings, but at the end, what does it even matter besides looking at the destruction of it? You know what I'm saying? Like a butter knife can still kill, right? So I don't care if you create a new knife or a new, like, what does it matter? You're murdering us and the people, our hearts, our minds, what we're doing, how we're living, we're destructive. Like even with this, like what goes, like yeah, cool, I get it, and I can understand where we are with it and seeing it, and it is a part of our views and a part of our lives. It's something that we need to really come to grips and to understand how to move, not only as a physical being, but as a spiritual being. But also, it's like at the same time, what besides it helping us to understand, if it ain't to grow, then really, to me, at some point, it's like irrelevant, right? Like if it's not to me bettering us here, then it really doesn't matter. I feel like we're always going into battle without all the equipment, and we're trying to get the equipment. We're trying to pull Excalibur from the stone, right? So, for me, um, does ghost being real challenge our faith or reality? I believe they can challenge our faith, but I think that's why you got to read. I just, like you said, you saw me able to look up scripture. Scriptures I already knew, but I wanted to be able to pull them up and read because I think you got to listen, you got to hear, and what you're understanding, um, because yeah, and then you got to figure out how does it connect and why, right? What's the purpose of it, and how does that benefit you in your faith and in your growth? So I think it can affect us in a negative way. It can affect us in a positive way. I just believe it's on how we kind of receive it and how much we invest to it. And I think I'm thankful. Sorry, y'all. Yeah, I'm just thankful for being able to see it and read it and hear it and see it for myself from my own perspective and as a believer, all these things. But they all put us in wonder. They can all challenge us differently, and with that, they affect our reality, right? So, but that's why we're here. That's why we're talking about it. These are real subjects. These are real things. Uh, you know, there's mediums, fortune tellers, witches, sorcerers, rituals, healers. There's magic, there's light, there's dark, there's possession. Why is it important to understand all these things? Because just to understand that the real, the Bible talks about it, Scripture talks about it, other religions talk about it. It's something that is very, very real. Do we deserve the power? Do we deserve to tap into it? Honestly, if you ask me, no, I don't think anyone's ready for it. I don't think that, I think we're playing with loaded guns. I think we're misleading ourselves from a lot of truths. I think a lot of it makes us depend on other things more than we depend on God, or work on ourselves or in tuning ourselves. So I just believe they're just big distractions. Uh, and sometimes people get so worried about doing those things, and having those things or tapping into those things, and they still just really would just end up just really still being messed up people. Um, People kind of seclude themselves or say they find peace through meditation, but yet they will still get up from that meditation and turn around and still be, like we're still missing something, still be really rude to somebody or still have a really negative view towards somebody and put on this facade. And I just think we got to stop playing around with these things, really look at these things, address these things, see these things, realize that they're real, but what purpose do they have if we're just not purposed at all ourselves? And for me, that's why I love scripture, because scripture talks about the context of the heart and of the mind, and who we are in relation to it all. Buddhists, a lot of other, obviously a lot of other things do as well. But with that, I think it just also calls us to be higher, right? I'm not just connecting with it, I'm elevating, right? I'm realizing that not only am I a part of this, I'm more than what I am and perceive myself to be even now. So now how do I begin to shed layers of this brokenness and all these things that are attached to me, right? It's like being at the bottom of the sea. You pull up that little treasure and it got all these things all over. We're trying to find a way to repurpose this thing without destroying this thing. And I think that's where we really are today. But I think it's important. How does it connect with what we see and know in today's world? I think we touched on all those things. But we gotta understand. Like I said, it gets deep. It gets deep. Like I said, if you don't believe it, you have a government that does, and that is tapping into all these things, tapping into sorceries, tapping in. And I'm telling you, it is. You can see the way they're using technology, and I believe now that's allowed them to do a lot more subconscious things, subconscious mind hypnotisms, just different things that we don't even realize. I believe in just so many shapes, forms, and ways we've been hit mentally, spiritually, work, physically. The physical part, I believe, destroys us to connect the way we need to, make the decisions. So they kind of beat you down one way to insert and plant another way. And then we have the food that breaks down, us as well, because this food is not right. So I believe this is just this whole big process. I want to bring up something too, because Alex Jones, who got demonized, who got kicked off, and I'm not saying he was perfect, but he was on to a lot of different things. But I can't remember what for. I believe it's the Redwood Forest, whatever. When he broke in, and he's literally recording all these high-end people who go to this place in California, your senators, ex-presidents, all these people who are dressed in hoods like a movie, walking around with candles and chanting all this stuff with this big old owl head, and he breaks into this place, records this stuff, gives it to us, and we just seem to think about it, see it, and then just keep on going. And that's what we got to stop doing, because they believe in it. They're tapping into other stuff. They're doing things. It has to be real. So connecting and understanding these things only matter if we take in the context of really making the changes, starting with elevating ourselves and not tapping into these other things that are misleading us, misshaping us, or asking for guidance from things to only that we don't understand. But first, just understanding that we're already blessed where we are, and if we can start shedding where we are, then we can begin to connect, and some things will begin to connect themselves, like love. Love will instantly, the more you grow in it, will connect itself to empathy, will connect itself to understand. Will start, you know what I'm saying? So, like, once we start doing these things, then I believe it'll all make sense. But man, what a fun one! I know it was a minute, but like I said, I truly enjoyed it. I love these subjects. I love getting up in the furnace, and I love cooking. I love turning up that heat. I love not shying away from these real things. I hope you appreciate it as well. But hey, we're gonna have to get up out of here. So